Incident file. The Apex Initiative, the post-war period produced, among other things, a governance problem that nobody had adequately anticipated. What do you do with superheroes when the institutions that manage them no longer exist at previous capacity? The answer, reached by the Provisional Earth Council in late 2059, after 3 weeks of debate and one very tense video conference that kept dropping due to degraded satellite infrastructure, was, send them to the moon. The official rationale was protection of humanity's most critical surviving settlement. The unofficial rationale, recorded in the personal diary of Council Chair Adeyemi and later archived at her request, was, they cannot blow up something that is already destroyed, and the moon is far enough away that the delay gives us time to think. The Apex Initiative launched in January 2060. 7 superheroes, 1 lunar base, 14 incident reports in the first week alone. This is the complete record. Subscribe, because the deep cries at the end, and it is somehow earned. The arrivals, they came on separate vessels over the course of 10 days, which was Director Chen's specific request, and which the council honored, because Director Chen had phrased the request in the tone of someone who had survived a great deal, and was not prepared to survive the alternative. Homelander arrived first. He brought his camera crew again, a fresh set of 48 milk servings, and a written statement he intended to deliver upon landing that described himself as humanity's first and finest defender, its last great hope. The statement was 4 pages long. The airlock ceremony lasted 11 minutes. The camera crew filmed all of it. The base staff watched from the observation window with the focused attention of people identifying what category of problem they were dealing with. Superman arrived second, without announcement, on a cargo vessel, carrying a single bag. He shook hands with the intake officer, asked if there was anything that needed doing, and spent his first afternoon helping maintenance reseal 3 corridor joints that had been on the pending list since 2058. The intake officer's note in the log, cooperative, helpful, seems fine. Queen Maeve arrived third. Her cargo declaration listed, personal effects, 2 cases of whiskey, 1 item described as a sword. Yes, really, it's fine. She walked through the airlock, looked at the amber sky through the observation window for a long moment, and said to no one in particular, okay. Then she went to find her quarters. The base staff, who had been briefed on her file, stepped aside. Batman arrived fourth. No announcement, no camera crew, no listed cargo despite bringing, as later became apparent, an extraordinary quantity of equipment that had been distributed across 17 separate shipments under category names including miscellaneous hardware, reference materials, and, memorably, personal wellness items. He spoke to nobody for the first 2 days. He was observed in various locations throughout the base at hours that suggested he had not slept, reviewing infrastructure schematics and, on one occasion, standing very still in a corridor staring at a ventilation panel for 40 minutes. The base security officer filed a note. Unclear what he is doing. Probably fine. Possibly not fine. Monitoring. A train arrived 5th, at speed, which was a mistake. The impact of entering the base at near maximum velocity in 1/6 gravity produced a trajectory that the physics did not favor. He passed through 2 common areas, a storage corridor, and the cafeteria. It was pasta day, which several residents had been looking forward to before decelerating against the hub 3 far wall. Structural damage. Minor. Pasta. Total loss. A train statement. I miscalculated the friction coefficient. The maintenance report used the phrase velocity-related contact event with the restraint of professionals. The Deep arrived 6th. He stepped through the airlock, received his orientation briefing, asked 4 standard questions, and then asked a 5th, is it true there's a dinosaur? He was told yes. His expression changed in a way the intake officer described as significant. He asked if he could meet it. He was told the exterior zone required clearance. He said he would get the clearance. He said this with the energy of a man who had found something to care about. Thor arrived last, on a vessel he had apparently arranged independently, wearing full armor, carrying a hammer that required its own cargo classification. He ducked through the airlock, straightened, looked around the base interior, and announced to the assembled intake team, "This is smaller than Asgard." He then asked where the food was and spent the next hour in the cafeteria eating everything available, which happened to be day 2 of the rotation, and therefore not pasta, which several staff considered a personal injustice. The first week 7 superheroes in a pressurized base produce a particular atmospheric quality that the environmental monitoring system is not equipped to measure, but that every long-term resident immediately recognized as something is going to happen. Homelander held a meeting on day 3 that he called the Apex Leadership Orientation, and to which he invited everyone. Superman came and was polite. Maeve came and sat in the back with her arms crossed. Batman stood near the door and did not sit. Thor came because he had been told there would be food and was visibly disappointed. The Deep came and spent most of the meeting looking out the window toward the exterior zone. A train came, sat in the front, and agreed enthusiastically with everything said, the way people agree when they are managing something complicated internally. Homelander spoke for 40 minutes. The main points were, he was in charge. This was for everyone's protection. Anyone who disagreed was welcome to discuss it with him personally, and the base should consider repainting the Hub 3 corridor in a color scheme he found more appropriate. Maeve raised her hand during the corridor repainting portion. She asked, in a voice calibrated to a specific frequency she had developed over years, whether the corridor repainting was operationally relevant to the protection of humanity's last settlement. Homelander looked at her for a long time. "I'm just asking," she said. The corridor was not repainted. The Batman question on day 5. Director Chen received a visitor at 6 o'clock. She had not been asleep, which was normal, but she had been drinking coffee alone, which was her version of privacy. Batman sat down across from her without asking, which she noted was becoming a pattern with visitors from Earth. He placed a folder on her desk. He said nothing. She opened it. It contained a complete structural analysis of the base, a psychological profile of each of the 6 other heroes with specific risk assessments, a contingency plan for 11 distinct scenarios including one labeled, "Homelander decides he is in charge," which was the 3rd tab, and which ran to 31 pages, and a note at the front that read, "You have been running this base for 8 years under extraordinary conditions. I am not here to add to your problems. Tell me what you need." Director Chen read the 3rd tab in full. Then she looked at Batman. "How long did this take you?" she said. "The flight was 14 months, he said. She closed the folder. She pushed it back across the desk. "Keep it," she said. "I have my own copy." Batman looked at her. "Page 47, she said. "I wrote it in 2061. A pause. "You planned for this," he said. "I planned for everything," she said. "I run a lunar base." They had coffee. It was, by all accounts available, a productive conversation. Its content has not been disclosed. The crisis on day 9, Homelander made his move. He called a base-wide announcement and delivered what the incident report calls an extended address regarding operational command structure. What this meant was, he stated, formally and with cameras present, that effective immediately, the Apex Initiative superseded the base's existing governance framework, and that as the initiative's senior member, he was assuming operational authority. The base went quiet in the way it went quiet when things were about to become either very bad or very strange. Superman, who had been helping in the agricultural hub when the announcement played, set down what he was doing and walked to the operations center. He arrived at the same time as Maeve, who had been asleep, and had come directly from her quarters still holding her coffee. Batman was already there. He had been there for 40 minutes. What happened next is documented in the incident report, in the camera feed from the operations center, and in the personal accounts of 9 residents who were present, and who all described the sequence of events with a consistency that suggests they are either all telling the truth or all committed to the same story, which in practice produces the same result. Homelander finished his address. He looked around the room. His eyes were doing the preheat vision thing. Batman pressed a button on a device that was approximately the size of a television remote. Every screen in the base operations monitors, corridor displays, cafeteria screens lit up simultaneously with a single image, security footage. 47 separate clips, time-stamped, organized chronologically, documenting every action Homelander had taken in the 9 days since arrival, including the meeting, including the corridor repainting request, including a conversation with his camera crew on day 2 in which he described the base as a stepping stone and the residents as optics. The footage ran for 4 minutes and 17 seconds. When it ended, the screens returned to normal. Maeve set down her coffee. She looked at Homelander with the specific tiredness of a person who has been waiting for a particular moment for a very long time and is relieved it has finally arrived. "I've been waiting 8 years to do something like that," she said, indicating Batman. "Where have you been?" Batman said nothing, which was not unusual. Superman stepped forward. He looked at Homelander with the expression he used, steady, direct, without cruelty, when he was about to say something he had thought about carefully. "You can stay," he said. "The base needs people, but you're not in charge. Nobody coming from outside is in charge. They've been running this place for 8 years without us, and they'll run it for 80 more. He paused. "You're a guest. Act like one." Homelander said nothing for a very long time. Then he picked up his milk, which he had been holding throughout, and he left the operations center. He did not attempt to assume command again. The Deep and Kevin on day 11, the Deep received his exterior zone clearance. He suited up incorrectly twice, requiring assistance both times, and walked out onto the regolith. Kevin was at the far end of the zone, 11 meters long, bioluminescent, 11 years old, and still growing. The Deep stood at a distance and looked at him. Kevin turned his head and looked back. What happened in the following 2 hours is not documented because the exterior monitoring system covers safety parameters, not conversations, and because the 2 individuals involved were outside and alone. When the Deep came back through the airlock, the intake officer noted that he appeared to have been crying, which in a pressure suit produces a specific and identifiable effect on the faceplate. He was asked if he was all right. "Yeah," he said. He stopped. "He's the only one out here, you know? Just him. In all that space." A pause. "I get that," he said. He went back out every day for the rest of his rotation. Kevin was always there. The base eventually added a second exterior monitoring camera, positioned toward the far end of the zone. The footage from this camera was never included in any official report. The base archivist filed it under personal, restricted, do not distribute. Some records are kept not for history, but for the people who need them to exist. Subscribe for the next one. WHAT happened after Thor stayed for 6 months, which was 4 months longer than his original rotation. He spent most of this time in the cafeteria, in the agricultural hub, helping with heavy lifting that would otherwise have required machinery, and on 2 occasions visible from the observation lounge, standing on the surface without a suit, which technically violated atmospheric protocols, but which the base medical officer reviewed and classified as not our jurisdiction. Honestly, he left without ceremony, said goodbye to the kitchen staff specifically and by name, and was gone. A train recalibrated. He spent his first month not running anywhere, which was visibly uncomfortable, and then found a workable speed for the corridors, which was slightly faster than a brisk walk, and which other residents learned to step aside for without resentment once they understood it was his version of restraint. Maeve took the Hub 2 observation lounge most mornings, alone, before anyone else was up. The amber light, the earth, whatever she was working through, she worked through it there, and came to breakfast afterward looking like someone who had decided something, every day, one day at a time. Batman left on day 31. His departure was not listed on the manifest. He was simply there and then not there, which 3 base residents confirmed and which the operations log records as departed. Method, unclear. All systems nominal. He left 1 item behind. Director Chen found it on her desk. A single page, no letterhead, which said, "Page 47 was better than mine. Keep running it." She kept the note. She filed it in the same folder where she keeps the letter from Maggie Voss's daughter, the one about her mother not wanting glory. Just the truth. The folder is unlabeled. She knows what's in it. That is enough.